So sometimes when you put the English language on paper, it'd be great to get the opportunity to eat your words, and eat your words when the stakes are the highest. So the likes of Pádraig Maher, the likes of Shane Callanan, Noel McGrath, these lads lined out again Jackie. So this is what Jackie's actually saying directly to these lads as individuals. Now, are they going to be thinking about it? No. Is it, as Derek said, is it going to be up in walls? It's not. But little bit of motivation in the back of your mind. These guys are going to come with their own game plan. The only words they're going to be really listening to is Liam Sheedy and his backroom team on Sunday. But somewhere in the back of their mind, it'd be nice to have Jackie eating these words come maybe 6 o'clock on Sunday.
It's All-Ireland final time. Welcome to Corbett and McGrath's Big Build-Up, brought to you by Centra. I'm Colin Fennelly. I'm joined with Lar Corbett, a very nervous Tipperary man, and a very tanned Waterford man here, Derek McGrath. Welcome to the show, lads.
Thanks, Willie.
Yeah, Lar, how are you feeling? The stomach getting butterflies now?
I don't think when you're not playing and when you're not lying out, I think we can enjoy it. We can go up on the Saturday and enjoy it and enjoy the Sunday. But I suppose like the players are going to be feeling a little bit different this week. But I think they've all the media work out of the way, and they met the supporters last week as well. And at home, you're coming through a few towns, and just especially Thurles there's a bit of colour around. So yeah, it's gearing up to be a good build-up, all right.
Yeah, well, here's a bit of motivation for you as a Tipperary man. Jackie Tyrrell's book. Quote from him: "We viewed all their moving and switching up front as a means of disguising that they couldn't take us on, that they hadn't the balls to really go at us. It always felt like they were scared to beat us." That's a Kilkenny man talking about Tipperary men. Derek, I suppose I go to you first. Is there something in that managers can use?
I think there is. I think they'll undoubtedly deny it in the aftermath. You know, if Liam Sheedy's interviewed Sunday night or on Monday in the aftermath of a victory, he'll probably say, look, we just concentrate on our own processes and we went through. But I think there's motivation in from a Tipperary point of view. And, even if you go back to the pre-2010 final, I just with a reading beforehand, Sheedy and O'Shea's approach for playing Kilkenny was very much like to go at them, to go after them. And there's a question in there of your character as much as anything else, in terms of, everything else can be questioned in life. You can question, whether you got your setup wrong, whether you got your matchups wrong tactically. But, to question that you're actually afraid or, that you're in some way lacking of, fortitude, that mental fortitude. I think that's the real question. I think Sheedy has an advantage motivationally there in terms of, I think you can throw it at your players like, listen, you're being questioned here. Not that I think, I don't think Jackie's quote will be, up on the dressing room walls, or it'll be visually kind of evident. But I think there's a kind of a general perception, that, not general perception, but, over the years that if from a Kilkenny perspective, that if you get in the faces of Tipperary fellas, that they'll crumble, and that's just an outside perception. I'm not sure is that true or not, but I think Sheedy will undoubtedly use it, as I said, not specifically Jackie's quote, but certainly the mentality that, we're going after Kilkenny. They've always questioned this, perhaps, and I don't think Tipperary will be found wanting when it comes to resolve on Sunday.
Yeah, like that is, it's almost an easy way to get players going, right? Like, because there's often these teams who are questioned about having a yellow streak through them. Now that can be very easily put to the players.
Yeah, but I suppose what Jackie's really talking about here is the backbone of the Tipperary team that's going to line out on Sunday, because Jackie lined out again these fellas. Yeah. So sometimes when you put the English language on paper, it'd be great to get the opportunity to eat your words, and eat your words when the stakes are the highest. So the likes of Pádraig Maher, the likes of Shane Callanan, Noel McGrath, these lads lined out again Jackie. So this is what Jackie's actually saying directly to these lads as individuals. Now, are they going to be thinking about it? No. Is it, as Derek said, is it going to be up in walls? It's not. But little bit of motivation in the back of your mind. These guys are going to come with their own game plan. The only words they're going to be really listening to is Liam Sheedy and his backroom team on Sunday. But somewhere in the back of their mind, it'd be nice to have Jackie eating these words come maybe 6 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah, well, sure it would be as a Tipperary man. Like, me and Derek will stay neutral here. But I suppose I want to talk about this week, like, building up to an All-Ireland final, and the training you would do. Like, would you have an in-house game on a Sunday?
Yeah, just the only minor experience that I have had it as a manager, I suppose, in 17 is we had our game on the Friday night previous to the Sunday week, so 10 days, I suppose, in advance. And it was only a 40-minute game, 20 minutes aside, and yeah, fairly intense now, because you've been espousing all year about the fact that, that this place is up for grabs, and we would have changed, even the 26 for the final, we would have changed it up slightly, based on what had happened in the run-up to, in that actual game. So yeah, spicy enough. And then on the Tuesday night, you're just tapering off and you're ready then to travel up on the Saturday. So really, if your work done on that Friday night, to a certain extent. So it's all good in terms of, look, different point of view from our point of view in that more traditional final, Tip and Kilkenny this weekend, but for us it was Waterford and Galway, so avoiding the novelty and the whole, the whole rigmarole around the build-up was a bit more difficult for us in that it's just kind of a new experience, I suppose.
Yeah, and as a player, like Brian Cody had a great interview with Pendulum Summit. Yeah. And he was talking about sometimes the problems staring you in the face about picking players.
I was at the summit, it was the beginning of the year, and it goes on in Dublin every year. So Brian Cody was there to do a talk, and I actually missed it myself, but I just got it back on the player after, and he says sometimes he said it was kind of different businesses were in the room, and I suppose it was sport mixed in with business, and he just says sometimes the problem that you're trying to solve is staring at you in the face if you're brave enough to take it on. And what he was talking about was 2012, starting Walter Welsh, hadn't played any league or challenge games, but he went on his performances in training. And sometimes as a player coming into an All-Ireland final, you'll do anything to make the 26, you'll do anything to make the 15. But if you believe that the manager will back you if you are performing, you actually get better 15 on 15s in behind closed doors in training, because you know that if you make the right decisions, if you put your hand up, you will get a chance. Sometimes managers might say the door is always open, we will change the 26, the 15 will always be, they'll change the 15. But somewhere in the back of your mind said, I don't really believe him, I just don't believe him. And what happens is then the players don't give you that extra bit. But Brian has been known to change coming into an All-Ireland final, so you believe that. So now it's going to be very interesting to see what answers have been in front of him for the last 3 weeks. What curveball is he going to bring to the table on Sunday that maybe that Tipperary people aren't going to be ready for? That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Derek, is there an element of courage to what Cody does there, like plucking boys and giving them the chance, or is it logic because he knows what he's seeing in training?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. There's definitely courage, and he can't be accused of not having courage over the years. Even if you go to the quarter-final, Conor Brown plays his first match of the year, picks up Dara Fitzgibbon, picks up Keane Lynch in the semi-final. So he has that. Like that's in his locker. You haven't seen huge amount of Liam Blanchfield kick on this year. You thought he might be the fella that might kick on in terms of the forward division, but there's a combination of it. I think the logic would dictate that Richie Hogan, TJ Reid, Colin Fennelly, Adrian Mullen, will be 4 of his 6 forwards, and then and probably leaving out someone completely very obvious there. Walter Walsh would be 5 of his 6 forwards. Even John Longley. I think the 6 forwards are embedded. So the doubt for me is over whether Killian Buckley starts instead of Richie Leahy in the middle of the field. Other than that, I actually don't see. And you're trying to put yourself on Brian's shoulders here. I don't see an absolute curveball ahead of this. Maybe perhaps someone on the bench that just sneaks in onto the bench at 26 or comes earlier in the year. He's been bringing on James Marr, he's been bringing on Killian Buckley, he's been bringing on Bill Sheen. Is there someone that's after kind of propelling themselves up the ladder there? So to answer your question, courage, yeah, but the logic would dictate that for me that it would be very much on the same lines of the Limerick selection. Yeah,
from a Tipperary point of view, like they really are a county that have gotten their acts together, right? In terms of investment, sponsorship, like direction, vision, they really seem to be all pulling in the one direction, and they're reaping the rewards.
Yeah, look, I think the Tenio sponsorship is significant, right? And I'm not equating, money to success, but I'm more equating even the role of the board, if you like. When Tenio were announced as the sponsor of Tipperary, kind of in a patronage almost kind of way, chairman of Tipperary County Board, I'm not sure it's a Tim Floyd, or I'm not sure secretary, they just announced that not alone would this be a jersey sponsor or a normal sponsor, but to be a strategic partner. And I think there's 2 things. There's the success of the Tenio company in terms of what the vision that they have, and the template, the business template that's almost been kind of married with Tipperary's, preparation, if you like. That there's a vision of where they want to go. They said they want to embed a culture of excellence. They want to kind of have sustainable growth across all teams. So you're talking in kind of business jargon, if you like, similar to what Lar said about the Pendulum Summit, that there's a kind of correlation between business and sport. There is, but also for me, it's the Sheedy influence. When he was away from the sport, or away from the game, if you like, obviously he had his role in the pundits chair, but he was chairman of the high performance unit in Abbottstown or wherever that's based. And there was a lot of learnings for him, I'd say, in terms of the professionalism of the setup. And I said a few weeks ago that players crave information, and Lars said to me just on the phone the last day, he said players crave respect as well. And people might think that materialism based on gear and based on everything being sorted for a player is not that important from the outset, but it's hugely important because, and I think that's where Tip are. Like, I was talking to some of the Waterford backroom team over the summer, and they said to me Tip arrived, like, for instance, for one of the matches with 2 buses. And I know people might see that's a bit gimmicky. The players were on one bus, then the backroom team got off the other bus, and everything just seemed to be kind of very, very well resourced and well arranged. And then there's a no excuses environment for players. And I think the players are flourishing under the feeling of being respected, being cared for. Not that they weren't in the previous regimes, but they just seem to be going forward in it with a definite kind of real professional kind of template,
Yeah, and like there's certainly no hiding from that from counties, right? Because players know what the best there is out there, and as you say, they want the best as well for themselves.
Yeah, players they're living in houses with different guys, let it be on the Dublin panel, the Waterford panel, just to kill. Yeah, and they know what's out there, and they see what's the best, and they're just demanding the best. But then they're also demanding the best as regards tactics, plans, movement, like video analysis, like all that. They want the best, and I suppose all that does cost money as regards if it is a backroom team. You hear now that there's backroom teams with 20 odd people in a second bus. So, they are demanding the best, and I think the boys are getting the best at the minute.
Yeah, well, we can't move ahead and talk about the game before I ask Derek McGrath about Waterford. So, during the week, Pádraig Fanning, obviously, his time as manager of Waterford came to an end. I sent Derek an old text straight away, but I only got the 1 tick, so I assumed they turned his phone off immediately. Obviously, your name's going to be bandied about. Is that something that you're open to?
Yeah, look, I was on holidays for the last 2 weeks, bronzing my head here, so in
you blocked my number,
yeah. So look, the news broke while I was away, and look, obviously I actually turned the phone off straight away because, you're kind of, for the year that you're out of it, I suppose. I think I said this to you previously, I didn't actually text one player till the day morning of the league final because, there's a feeling you don't want to be hanging around kind of the whole setup because, you've been involved for 5 years and very emotive kind of, so didn't really think about it, I was talking about my wife, and my wife was saying, would you be mad to consider it, and I was kind of saying, not sure how I feel about it, and that's not giving you a less than candid answer, and that's the reality of how I feel now at this stage, that is a time for someone else to have a go at it as well, to maybe step away from it, go back into the school scene and have a run at a Harty Cup team of 4 or 5 years, and then maybe have another go at it as well. So that's where I am, that's where my head is at. I'm not saying I'm disinterested or interested. I think there's a committee being put in place over the next couple of weeks in Waterford, county board officers, obviously, I think former players. So I suppose in terms of, they'll if they see fit to talk to people that they think are suitably qualified for the job, and they consider me to be one of those, I suppose, I'm not saying I'd be willing or unwilling to talk to them, but, we'd see what happens. But I think there's a lot of good people in Waterford that are interested in the job, a huge amount of speculation around people involved, but a lot of good people in line to have a go at it. And I'd be slow to kind of stand in their way as well, in terms of what they could bring to it as well. And, people perhaps that have waited in line up to this that might be more qualified and maybe perhaps even have more energy, and that's what you need. You need absolute enthusiasm and energy for the job, and I'd have to question whether I have that completely at this time after a 1 year sojourn, if you like.
Yeah, not to annoy you too much, but would you look back at your time and think there was actually more I could get out of them? Do you look back, because obviously you got to the All-Ireland final and you talked about regrets that you had maybe of a changing room speech that time, or sort of preparing for the first time for an All-Ireland final, and how it sounds like it might be easier if you got there a second time. So do you look at that and think there's maybe an opportunity I can take this a little bit further?
Yeah, well, you probably do in terms of your overall, because I think when you're out of management, you say to yourself, geez, what would I do differently? It's like when you're out of any job or you're out of playing, like Larry, you say, geez, if I had the chance to do that again, I'd go at it in a particularly different way. When I went for the job 5 years ago, general advice from me, from loved ones and family and friends was, Jesus, steer clear of it. Wait till the minors are, the minors have just won the All-Ireland, we saying the year previous, if you like, and wait till they're, 22, 23. Now, that's where they are now. They're 22, 23 now. You have your Patrick Hearns and your Bennetts and Austin and those. They're coming to that age, 24, 25, when they're coming into their prime. So, the general advice was, as I said, to steer clear of it. So in terms of learnings, yeah, it's just putting those learnings into place, whether you have the energy or not to do that, would you be better at the job? That's debatable, you know. It's debatable, you know. You talk about Pádraig's tenure, like in 2018. In 2018 we didn't win a championship match either. We drew with Tipperary in first round, so and that's to continue. So in terms of a job that where the only way is possibly up, it's a good opportunity, like, you know, in terms of, because, you know, we haven't won a game for 8 championship games, so there's a possibility of improving things there, if you like. But yeah, could you improve? I think you could, but just everything is so cutthroat now with the Munster Championship. It's you know, you'd have to have all your wits about you and all your energies about you to commit to it, you know.
Yeah, good man, Derek. Let's talk about Kilkenny v Tipperary, 3:30 on Sunday. Colin Fennelly. I want to start off straight away with him because he just has something that other people don't have, right? I think Derek called him a dog a couple of weeks ago. Pure strength, just isn't that what it is?
Yeah, I think his strength is unreal, and it's going to be a problem for Tip on Sunday. Probably one of the only guys, I won't say in the country, one of a small few anyway, that he can turn 0% goal chances nearly out in the corner flag into goals. And more often than not, he wants to get inside the 6-yard box, and he's batting it in like a tennis shot, for instance, but he doesn't give you a chance. And his strength, he's after getting very, very strong over the last couple of years. So he's going to be a huge problem for Tip on Sunday, and it's going to be a big, big call who Tip go to man mark this guy on Sunday, because I think it's going to come down to something, maybe a goal opportunity. I think it's going to come down to a chance that they'll try and turn into a goal, Kilkenny, and it's going to come down to a big player to mark him on Sunday.
Yeah, that's a great shirt. He creates goals out of nothing, and he bulldozes his way into the 6-yard box. And so we actually have a clip of a couple of his goals from the last couple of games. Lar, if you want to talk us through it.
Yeah. So like he's not happy to strike outside the shield. He wants to get in, and like, you know, it's just as Derek said, a pure dog on the ball to get in. The same thing here, bang and batting. Like he 3 or 4 lads. Just say, well, there's 2 there in goalie, but he doesn't mind how many lads are around him. Man, he knows when he throws it up and throws it in front of him, you won't get the hook in on him. He knows he's that split second to get in, but he's so strong on the ball and so strong in the tackle. I don't know too many guys that would actually be able to hold him when he runs at you, because he's so strong.
Yeah, how do you go about dealing with something like that?
Yeah, with great difficulty. But there's a couple of things there. He goes one way first of all, and he cuts back onto the defender's left shoulder. And you're talking about Sean Finn, and you're talking about Owen Cadigan in those clips as well. You're not talking about you know, mere mortals. You're talking about very, very strong, athletic men. So there's a combination. There's a bit of guile to what he does as well. And he seems to be very carefree as well. You know, you look, it's just, there's no nerves, like, you know, because. You know, I remember he got 2 great goals against us in 16 in the semi-final of the All-Ireland. He was just kind of carefree, like, you know, kind of get it into me. If I'm 1 against 2, if I'm 1 against 3, what about it? Like, I'll win it, and I'll create something out of nothing. So, in terms of, I could see, if you're trying to look into the future, you could possibly see a couple of penalties being given away on the back of, say, if you're Liam Sheedy the last couple of weeks and you're prepping, whether it's Seamus Kennedy, whether it's Barry Heffernan, whether he brings back James Barry, whether Lara was suggesting perhaps that maybe Ronan Maher might perhaps pick him up, whether Pádraig Maher locates himself 5 yards away from and dismisses Walter Welch down the field, if you like. But you're kind of saying to yourself, we're not going to leave him in. So by not leaving him in, there's a possibility you'll foul him, you know. So you could watch for kind of a TJ Reid stepping up to a penalty perhaps over the weekend based on Colin Fennelly being dragged down. And then there's the other situation where Cody may look at, and this sounds a bit mad, you're talking about curveballs, if it does dry up to him, you might see him at 10, you might see him at 11. You haven't seen him out the field at all these yet. So if it did dry up to him, I think you'd see him being relocated somewhere as the game went on. So dealing with him with great difficulty, I think that you just have to prevent him getting the ball in his hand. If you can win that race out, you know, and then you're possibly running the risk of leaving him in behind you altogether. But you know, he has a lot of guile and skill as well as just that strength as well, you know.
He doesn't always need the ball in his hands. We got a clip here of him just batting it down to Richie Hogan to show the sort of variation that he has in his play. So we'll run this clip now.
Yeah, I think the key thing here is almost he uses actually his right hand here to take it down to. The hand comes up, his right hand is there, and he just knows exactly what he's doing down to Richie Hogan. And for the goal in the second half that day, he just turned the hurley slightly at an angle as well to play Richie Hogan in. Something that Bonner has done, and Bonner Maher has done for years, and Henry Shefflin himself has done for years, where he just cut a slight angle. People mightn't see it, say it's an accident or whatever. They know exactly what they're doing. They're putting it to the person running onto the ball. And echoes of, I'm not sure if it was 82 or 83, where Christy Heffernan palmed the ball into the net against Cork for Kilkenny, but the Kilkenny fellas they know, and again it goes back to the whole team concept. The better player is Richie Hogan. You know, people might say afterwards, say if that was the only contribution Colin Fennelly had to that weekend or to that match, but it's still very vital where fellas, you often see a fella just kicking a ball back to the likes of Lar and he throws it over the bar, he never gets the credit. Fennelly has a lot in his locker, you know.
Yeah, there's a great article I read in January, wasn't the Times? Derek McGrath, Kilkenny are fooling no one. And basically it was about the idea that, you know, they're always playing it down, and like, but you were always, like, and I'll give you your credit, since the show started you're always so paranoid of writing them off, and I always thought, why? And here we are in an All-Ireland final again.
Yeah, and if I'm honest, Tipper, the same. No, listen, I worked in, when I was in college, I worked in country style foods, great people there, the Williamses, their own country style for years, and every year you mean, we won't be figuring this year, you know. They just have an inherent ability to kind of play it down, you know. Look, I don't think we'll do anything this year, or we won't feature this year, and, you know, even, you know, I think it's just, you know, when I look at, I suppose I'm on the school scene there, and we're coming up against Kieran's a lot in challenge matches. We come up against Kilkenny CPS. They're murdering us, you know what I mean? And then I'll go back and repeat the point I made earlier in the year, which is when you have Eddie Brennan and Richie Power and Henry Shefflin and Tommy Welch and JJ Delaney, you know, no more than Lar's group. You have a special group of players that invariably are going to be compared to other players, you know. And I think, you know, we were just talking again off air, like, Kilkenny starting 15 on Sunday will have 40 All-Ireland medals, you know. You know, that's just an interesting stat, like 40 All-Ireland medals, and I think they'll have All-Ireland medals at every line. Like Conor Fogarty has 4, or Owen Murphy has 4, TJ Reid has 7, Richie Hogan has 7, Colin Fennelly has 4, Killian Buckley has 3. So, you know, and Tip have 17 All-Ireland medals between their teams. So when people talk of transition and new team, and I kind of say, hang on now, if you really look at this, Kilkenny are a series out. 5 of the last 6 All-Ireland colleges. When we got to the All-Ireland final, we were basing our team on 0-7 and 0-8 college wins with De La Salle and 0-10 wins with Waterford colleges. You know, so there's a conveyor belt. So I think it will never dry up in Kilkenny or Tipperary. And you know, at the start of the year, Sheedy was in an ideal situation. The perception was we didn't qualify for Munster last year, so anything we do will be up the way. But I still guises the fact that I think Tipperary have serious players and serious hurlers and serious pedigree as well, you know.
Yeah, and probably key to Kilkenny is the evolution that they've had over the years, and like to that end, we'll pull out the tactics board and get Derek to talk us through some of that evolution.
Yeah, well, look, you're talking about Kilkenny learning all year, and they say that they learn from their 15 and 15 matches, and I believe that because I spent a lot of time up there watching them over the years, that the movement and everything comes from their 15 and 15. But even if you go to the 0-6 final, I suppose, against Cork, Cork were renowned for that possession game. How were Kilkenny going to counteract it? I think it's the first day we actually saw the half order being as deep as it was. So you saw 10, 11 and 12 come out. You saw Taggy Fogarty come out here, and you saw him saying to Don Logue, well, use Pat Mulcahy, use Diarmuid O'Sullivan, or use Brian Murphy in the full back line, and we'll take it from there. And what happened then is Cha and Michael Rice lodged themselves in the half back line. You did a classic Kilkenny setup where you have 5 in the half or 5 in the half back line, and everywhere Don Logue looked, you could basically see Kilkenny stripes, right? And I think people say, that's, you know, it's a simple game, and that's the way they've done it. And what they'd often do in that regard then is they'd lob Brian Hogan back here to protect the backs, and the other backs would be gone man to man. And it's just how they've evolved and what they've had to deal with over the years in terms of people coming with new concepts. So then if you go to the 08 final, against ourselves, it was a similar setup, 13, 14 and 15. So what you'd often have is, if Owen Larkin is down the pitch here, if he's gone down the pitch hunting, if you like, and helping his backs, if Michael Rice has gone down the pitch here, Taggy Fogarty then would be the one that would come out. I remember for the Eddie Brennan goal in the All-Ireland final in 08, Taggy Fogarty comes out here on the Tony Brown, the ball breaks here, it's in here, it's 2-on-2 because Tony has done what most people would do. He hasn't followed his man down the pitch. So you're in a situation then where the forwards are just hunting like dogs, and I don't see any difference in terms of what they're doing. When they played Galway then, I suppose, in the All-Ireland final of 2012, in 2010, they met Lar's team, who were buzzing all over the place, everywhere. And they got moved, even if you look at Lar's goal in on Noel Hickey, he's in here, the first goal. Everyone else has moved out the pitch, or Lar's goal that we'll watch later, everyone else has moved out the pitch. And how they learned from that in 2011 then, in terms of matchups, they went, basically they matchups, but they left Brian Hogan centre back then, and everyone else picked the man. They said, I'm going to take Lar Corbett, I'm taking Owen Kelly, I'm taking Noel McGrath, and I suppose the lesser of the tip forwards. Brian Hogan was able to kind of sit back. JJ Delaney takes Fennelly Callanan. So all the time I think they're learning. 2-12 then they meet Galway. If you just imagine that this is Damien Hayes from Galway wearing the blue and yellow at Tipperary, he's out as an extra midfielder. Early on in the year, both in the Leinster final and the draw match, he's followed out here, which leaves the Kilkenny backline completely discommoded, 5-on-5 here. If you just imagine it's the Kilkenny backline now at this stage. So you have the Kilkenny backline completely discommoded. The replay then, they learn their lesson. Henry Shefflin comes deep from centre forward. They lob Walter Welch into the corner, throw a man in on Johnny Cohen, and they've learned the lesson again. And even if we bring that forward, bring that forward to this year, against Cork in the All-Ireland quarter-final, Cork again, if you imagine Cork are in the Tipperary colours, you had Horgan and Cadigan in here, you had Horgan and Cadigan, you had Shamey Harnedy moving out the field, and early on it looked like, Jesus, Cork are going to rip them asunder here. And then all of a sudden what happens, I suppose, is that Conor Fogarty lobs himself back here, dismisses Luke Meade down the pitch, and basically acts as a kind of an extra defender, and they decide not to follow, and they do the exact same against Limerick. So my point is, I suppose, even though people say Kilkenny just go out and they hurl as it is in front of them, and they do, they make the decisions themselves, and Brian is instrumental. They've learned according to what they have to meet, whether it's Wexford, whether it's ourselves, whatever issue. All the talk before the Limerick semi-final was how are they going to deal with Limerick's short passing game. What did they do? Their half back line didn't follow anyone down the pitch. They just lobbed themselves in the middle, or 45 yards out, and said we're going to rely on TJ Reid, on Adrian Mullen, on Walter Welch to win that war out in the middle third.
Yeah, and you talked about Tipperary in 2010 moving them around and creating the space for the man on my right here. Tipperary are still sort of working those patterns, aren't they? Like, will you show me how they're doing that, how they're creating that bit of space?
Well, see, when we see the clip here in a few minutes, you'll see Lar probably doesn't want to talk about this clip now because he's too humble to kind of say how he was involved in winning an All-Ireland. But for me, the Tipperary guys seem to have licence to go where they want, in terms of the movement that they have. And that's obviously O'Shea, Tommy Dunn's influence, Darragh Egan's influence, Liam Sheedy's influence. They can go where they want. So they'll do the classic thing that they did in Lar's final, where you have Garrod Ryan back here, you have John O'Brien back here, same as Tip did. But then all of a sudden, Garrod Ryan might find himself centre forward, and all of a sudden you'll have the centre forward gone to here. Lar might find himself a right half forward, and he's out here. So they're constantly moving out into the channels. And what often happens is Lar might be known by bringing Noel Hickey out here for 5 minutes. There's an opportunity for Owen Kelly in here to make hay, and even though he's not directly involved, Lar is saying to himself, geez, I can move. So say Kilkenny picked man markers the weekend, they say, well, Joey Holden, you're picking Jason Ford, Paul Murphy, you're picking Bubbles. So Bubbles might know that if he strays out around here, Murphy's with him, but here Shamey Callanan is one-on-one now with Hugh Lawler. And even though Bubbles is not directly involved in the score himself, the management and Sheedy will know, and Bubbles himself will know, geez, I had a hand in that. And people look in the stands and say, Jesus, Bubbles wasn't involved much, or he wasn't involved in that. But he's after running out, making the space out the field so that the runners can come from outfield then, as opposed from just being in as a traditional 13, 14 and 15 inside, getting it, taking on their men. They're normally coming in from deep, if you like. Yeah,
well, we'll pull up the clip now in a second, because obviously you got 3 goals that day, Lar. You can talk us through the other 2. But Derek will talk through this one just because it's a brilliant piece of movement. And obviously it's great skill as well for Lar to get in, but it really showed how you can just start a team if you want. And we'll pull it up here now.
Yeah, and it comes in a non-traditional sense. You'll see that Lar's movement, he's actually coming from deep, and there's no one inside the 21. And I actually remember a piece of analysis that was done prior to that. Garrod Ryan hits it in, you'll see Lar there, you see Owen Kelly is out, John O'Brien is out, I think John O'Brien is the nearest him, Owen Kelly is out the pitch, knowing that he has his man with him, and obviously there's a bit of genius from McGrath in terms of the overhead hand pass, and Kilkenny just kind of switch off for a few minutes. So you have Jackie Tyrrell, you have Tennyson, all chasing, and Lar then makes no mistake, then takes the roof out of it, but it's the point I'm making, I suppose, is that it doesn't come where the ball is hit into your 13, 14 and 15 in there, they win it, they're out in front, they turn, and they have to, their back is to goal. The point is, I suppose, that Lar is coming from an unexpected position, I suppose, which he's done for years,
Yeah. Is that a worked move? Like, did you know that there would be space in there, or is it all instinct?
Yeah, definitely when you see Noel McGrath getting just that type of a ball, you will make the run, because you know that you will get it, or if you don't get it, you should have got it. So for instance, myself and Noel would have having a good connection. If Noel didn't give it the ball that day, he would have been disappointed, and I would have been disappointed that he didn't give it as well, because we know it's the right thing to do, and he can see the next move. And that's why Noel is crucial to this team at the minute. He can see the next move, and that's why he's valuable out around the middle of the field. He's able to see space, create space, but he's also, when he looks up, he's able to see the next play just as it's about to happen or beforehand. So he gives you an extra second, and he has that edge about him to, for instance, the ball he gave to Fennelly Callanan again, Laois, it wasn't on. Fennelly made a bit of a run, but he actually put it into his pat, and by the time that it was in his pat, now it's on. So he's able to kind of think ahead, like, you know.
It encourages you to run a bit more because you know it's going to come.
Because you know it's going to. Some guys, if they don't see it, you can't give out to them because they don't know the mistake that they made. But likes of Noel, they see it, so you make the run. They will find you more often than not. They will.
Yeah, and like obviously Tipperary have had, like they've got all the ways of playing as well, and there's a good clip of Ger Brown, who probably should have scored a goal, but like it showed how Tipperary can just cut through teams. So we're going to pull up that clip now.
It'd be interesting. I think Tip were down to 14 men at this stage, but it's the way they went at Wexford almost. There's Barry Heffernan, a couple of backs charging forward, and he gives it to Ger Brown, and Ger Brown rifles it over the bar. But the interesting thing for me was they're now playing only with 5 forwards, and they were actually looser with 5 forwards. They were able to create more space with 5 forwards because the backs were inclined to charge forward. There seemed to be kind of a, I don't like, you know, not shackles off, but they said we have to go for now, we have to go. So there was unexpected kind of sources of attacks, Heffernan to Ger Brown and a score. So I think it kind of opened up for him again, similar to kind of Lar's score from 210.
Yeah, like, do you think Ger should have passed that or just put it away himself?
He definitely should have got it on target, and would have done it. It would have given him a great boost coming into the final, knowing that you're in Croke Park and you see the net moving, because it's great for your memory, know that you are in them positions and you're able to do it. But also for the manager to know that he put you on, he had a bit of trust in you, and you're able to do it. So like he got into the position, he got the ball, and like he probably could have passed it to Shamey, or he probably should have scored it. But we're Tipperary in a better position, I think, now than we were in the beginning of the year. Is we spoke in the beginning of the year that Tip have 15, they don't have anyone on the sideline as a sub just to come. But I think that the panels after moving in positive, and it's good coming into a final that you have guys like Jake Morris, Mark Keogh, Willie Connors, Ger Brown, knowing what it's like to come on in Croke Park and what it's like to score. So Tip have this in their armour that we probably didn't have in the beginning of the year. And it'll be very interesting to see how training was over the last 2 weeks. These guys are going to be coming back in with a pep in their step. And really Jake Morris, since the under-20 Munster final, getting the winner, coming on the last day, catching an unbelievable ball on the sideline, putting it over the bar, should have got the goal, only for the ref didn't play advantage. So like, there's a lot of good things happening from outside of the first 15 with Tip coming in together. So there's going to be competition for places, and guys know that they're not going to get the full 70 minutes. So you'll get a little bit more work out of them, and then you have these guys coming on with, their tails are up, there's a pep in their step.
Yeah, I want to talk about Fennelly Callanan. So obviously he's a contention for Hurler of the Year, like probably favourite. Would you agree with that? We'll not ruin next week's show, actually. Let's save that for a second. But when you were playing with him, Lar, and he's first in the squad, he's probably more of a bit part player. Like, what do you put that change?
Shamey at the minute has a habit of taking all my awards at the minute. He's leading goal scorer, now he's taking Hurler of the Year off me. So, all jokes aside, no, when Shamey came in the beginning, Shamey had a turn of foot, had speed, had touch. It was unreal. I think Shamey in his first 5 games with Tip had a goal a game. That was in 2009. He was unbelievable. Shamey then, for different circumstances or whatever, had a little bit of a dip in his own career. Maybe managers fell out of favour with different managers. I don't think it was Shamey's actually own style himself. 2010, come on as a sub in the All-Ireland final. 2011 and 12, he was in and out of the team. And Shamey's after coming over all these different obstacles. So from where he started, not to be playing, you look at it this year, he was on the freeze. They took the freeze off him, they gave him to Jason Ford. But it just goes to show the mental strength of this guy, that when you start and when you're given a jersey and someone takes it back off you, they give you the freeze, they take the freeze back off you. Mentally, there's a lot to deal with here. So it just goes to show his strength. This year then, Liam Sheedy and his manager had the vision to come in. well, my main man is Fennelly Callanan, he's my main forward, I'm going to give him the captaincy and he's going to put this Tipperary forward line on his back and he's going to drag him on. And that's exactly what he's done. So everything we're after saying is that he's in the habit of breaking records. That's very good for him and is very good for Tipperary to put us into these positions. As I said already, giving him the captaincy has really brought him on and to another level now again. So the games this year, a goal a game, but he's our leader, he's our go-to player, and we expect a lot from Shamey. But what Shamey's able to do, Shamey's able to deliver on the big day. The last time we were in an All-Ireland final, 2016, Shamey got man of the match. So there's big performance in this player, but he's able to carry it, and that just goes to testament to the guy.
I know he's taken all your accolades, but but do you see a bit of yourself in Shamey, or a bit of Shamey in yourself, throughout the years? And sometimes, there's a bit of pressure on the main man, right? Are they always appreciated as they should be?
Yeah, Shamey's able for the pressure, and I think that's our job. I always go back to 2013. We played Kilkenny in Nolan Park in the championship, and I got injured the same day. It was going okay the same day, and the Kilkenny supporters booed me coming off the field. But I took I took that's respect. So maybe they were a little bit nervous of Tipper going to do one today. Maybe as individuals a little bit nervous. So I look at that as respect, or a little bit worried, and now you're gone, you're out of the equation, maybe Kilkenny have a better chance of winning. So it's up to us as individuals, when we put ourselves out there and when we achieve, is that we have to take responsibility. And the days that we don't perform, we have to take them as well. But I do think that the good guys that are out there and the better players out there are able to take this in their stride, and they don't think too much about it. These guys know Sunday we have to go out and do a job. I know it. Everything else we're doing outside of the game is a spectacle, but you have to bring it right down to normal, ordinary brass tacks. And I think that's what Shamey is good at. When the balls come in, take the percentages. He's able to take his chance, and he doesn't get excited or get fluttered. You know that he's going to get his chance.
Yeah. Derek, it's probably a good lesson for young hurlers in conditioning as well, right? If you look back at that big hit that Jackie Tyrrell hit him with in the ribs, but if he did that now, Shamey might be able to stand up to it a bit. I know it was a monster hit, but he's a bit of a beast now compared to what he was then.
He's a huge man, and even mentally, I remember reading either Lars or Brendan Cummins' book, can't remember, but prior to the 2010 All-Ireland final, he spoke in the dressing room, that week, I think, of the match, having not been picked for the team, if you like, that he'd be ready to come in. And you hear all these stories, I'll be ready to come in, and you say to yourself, did he really mean that? From afar you kind of say, but there's a kind of sense even more so this year, I think, that as Lara has alluded to that. I remember the first league game this year against Clare, Saturday night in Thurles, his first game as captain, and just remember him setting the tone in terms of hooking, blocking, tackling, work rate, encouragement. And I think that's what his first port of call has been, to kind of work harder than he's ever done before, I think. And then the hurling is just kind of flowing from, because he's a natural hurler anyway, and he's a natural predator, if you like. And even look at the goal against Clare, the goal he got against Clare, and nearly took the roof out of the net, venom in what he's doing. I think there's real venom in what he's doing. He's real assured, and the goal off the ground against Wexford. He's a serious player, and I heard one of his interviews talking about getting a Tipperary jersey and the significance of it. And again, I'd credit Sheedy with just having the motivational powers to be able to kind of form a relationship and kind of say, you're my man, and the confidence garnered from the one-on-one relationship with himself and Sheedy in the backroom team has made him flourish. He's not looking over his shoulder. Not that he ever really was, if you like. Maybe he was in the early days, as Lar said, but he's kind of the main man now. And it'll be interesting to see how he'll be held on Sunday. Yeah,
that's going to be a great battle, Hugh Lawler and Callanan in the edges of the square. But the key matchups that you guys have picked, the first one is Conor Brown against Noel McGrath.
Yeah, an interesting one, because we're basing it on the fact that if you're Brian Cody, you kind of say to yourself, you have to kind of focus in on some key Tipperary men, and Noel McGrath is one of them in terms of the conductor, the orchestra, so you're going to say to yourself, we have to limit him, and the reason why we're going with Conor Brown is he has previous from the quarter and semi-final in that he picked up Dara Fitzgibbon in the quarter-final for Cork, did a relatively good job on him, and he picked up Cian Lynch in the semi-final against Limerick. Didn't hit a huge amount of ball himself, got one good great point against Cork, right? But limited two key players, and we're kind of saying to ourselves, we think Cody might perform that particular mantra again. And I watched him in the Fitzgibbon this year against ECU, semi-final if it's given. Very, very strong, athletic player. Gets around really well, and obviously the genes are very good in terms of the Downey connection there. So I don't think anything will faze him Sunday.
Yeah, and well, the other one is Brendan Maher against TJ Reid. Do you think Brendan's the man for that?
I think Brendan's the man. Brendan has done it 2 or 3 times already this year. I think that he's now solely our own predictions. We don't know what's going on inside in the camp, but I think that Brendan is tailor-made for TJ. I think he's after doing it 2 or 3 times already this year, so he's used to doing it, and I think generally in tip we know if Brendan goes on TJ and he contains him to a certain level, I wouldn't be like, you get 2 points from play. We're happy with that. So that's going to be a key battle, and as Derek was saying there, like Noel McGrath, he's the orchestrator out there, but he's going to have to find space and maybe shake off Conor to some degree to be able to be this quarterback of giving in the supply of ball that we know Noel can get in. So when you have a man marker, so let it be if it's TJ and Brendan, let it be it's Conor and Noel. When you have you have to find out where can I go to get space before I can influence the game, or before I can help my teammates get on the ball as regards passages of play. So you have a little job to think of first. So you might have to bring Conor maybe where he doesn't want to go, maybe he mightn't like to go, or maybe where he was told don't go. So Noel will have to find out if he brings him in centre forward. Maybe if Noel had to bring him in maybe full forward for a minute or two, because Shamey does like to come out now and again. Maybe Conor was told by Brian Cody the week before, well, you're to follow Noel here, here and here. Well, I think you have to find out very quick where he was told not to go. So it's about getting players into positions where they're not that comfortable. That's where you'll end up finding space for the benefit of your team, I think.
Yeah, I'd be interested, Derek, to know like what are you doing now this week? Like Lars talking there, like tactically and moving players around. Look, you obviously wouldn't do too much hard training this week, but can you get this stuff into players' heads?
I think you have to give him every scenario these days. You have to give him scenario A, B, C. You know, if he goes to, like, even take the Brendan Maher situation in terms of trying to answer your question, you know, does TJ go to full forward if he knows Brendan Maher is going with him and Brendan Maher is full back now? You know, yes, he has previous. He marked Aaron Gallan inside in the full back line. He went with Austin. He went with Tony Kelly all over the pitch. So the evidence is there to suggest that he would go all over the pitch. But it's the handing over and the talking. Even in a group of backs, he could be in a room with 6 backs and say, listen, if he goes to here, he's handed over here. Make sure we're communicating and make sure the keeper's involved in terms of the communication. He's your man now. You know, so, and that can get lost. And in many ways, Lara's goal was a bit of kind of almost a lack of communication in the Kilkenny defence that you don't often see for the 2010 goal. So I think they need to know all the scenarios, but then they need to be able to flow into the week as well, if that makes sense. You know, so that, you know, that's a contradiction in itself. But even last week, you know, I remember even reading in Cody's book, or in Jackie Tyrrell's book, about where he approached Jackie Tyrrell about picking up Lar, and he said, how would you feel about picking up Lar? So we often hear about this, you know, lacking in compassion man, or a man that, you know, doesn't present kind of, you know, things to players in a manner where the players are kind of brought on board, you know, that's dictatorial. And, you know, it's just, I thought the words of that were interesting. How would you feel about picking up Lar? You know, and I think that's the scenario now, the perfect match of and mix of, you know, ensuring that your players are still happy that they can drive it on, you know, because the argument with Brendan is if you take him out of the half back line, say TJ goes into the corner and Brendan goes with him, are our tip missing? I'm only putting myself on the hat there, don't worry. Wishful thinking, I said, in terms of managing the team that's sitting all Ireland, but you know, is there something missing from the half back line that Brendan Maher gives? I think they're all the different things that Darragh Egan and Tommy Dunn and Brian Cody and Derek Ling and them sit down and say to themselves. So it's not as simple as we just let them out and play, you know. And I think that's where you earn your crust, I suppose, you know, as a management and players. Because players, for me, they want to know, like, say for instance if Conor Fogarty's picking up bubbles, if he's right half back, and he says to himself, well, hang on, he has Hugh Lauder screaming at him, hey, I'm exposed here from Shamey Callanan, I'm one-on-one with Shamey Callanan. Come back here and give me a bit of help. Then it's the communication between Conor Fogarty and his right half forward, John Donnelly, as you saw the last day, what Donnelly did, he was right deep, which cuts down the space for Bubbles to operate in. You know, so that's the intriguing part for me. It's fascinating, and in the midst of all that, you'll just have a war zone, I suppose, you know.
Yeah, you do all that and then you go out and get 17 goals disallowed anyway when you're Tipperary, so you can do all that planning, Lar, but it doesn't always work out.
No, it doesn't always work out. So I think that both teams, they'll be able to plan for the crowd, they'll be able to plan for the travel, the time, the weather, the movement, the different scenarios for Sunday. The one thing in the GAA at the minute that you can't plan for is the referee. What is the referee going to do Sunday? Is he going to let the game go? Is he going to blow it up? So it's just so unpredictable. And the GAA, I think, are a little bit lucky the last day as regards to Tipperary actually got through. With the goals that were disallowed, you had a Kilkenny man living in Kilkenny, reffing the semi-final, Kilkenny in the final. I just think it's a no-no. So there's different scenarios that people come up with. Have two referees in the one field. If you had two referees in the one field at the minute, it'd be actually two different games going on. You'd have one referee that would let the game go, the other that would be pulling it up. For a few years, they were blowing the hand pass. Now you can virtually nearly throw the ball now. It's worse than ever because there's no consistency. And even when you're inside in the dressing room, before the boys go out Sunday, they won't know what way this game is going to be reffed. In their mind, they won't know, will the referee be letting it go? Will he be blowing it up? Will it be over? Just say the hand pass, what way is the... And referees don't come into dressing rooms half an hour before, 20 minutes before you go out. Like, you know, referees now should be coming into dressing rooms and saying, lads, I'm in charge today. This is how the game is going to be reffed. And then lads have an understanding before they go out in an All-Ireland final. And it would actually enhance the game for the people that are at it, the viewers, the spectators, 83,000 going up Sunday, going up in their cars, are all saying, I wonder will the referee let it go today? I wonder will he blow up the hand pass? What way will he be for the over carrying the steps? Is it 4 only or is it 6? So there's too many variations of what way referees are reffing games now. And I think the referees themselves are not too sure what the guys up in the committees want them to do.
Yeah, so it's obviously James Owens got it for a back-to-back for himself. Imagine poor James McGrath up in Westmeath having retired for not getting the All-Ireland final, and he sees James Owens getting it twice. But do you think like that's a big problem, him living in Kilkenny? Because football-wise, they're saying the same thing about David Goff living in Dublin. But I live in Dublin, I work in Dublin, I play for a Dublin club, but I have no more affinity for Dublin than I would for Kilkenny.
I think at the minute the way that the referees are just say reffing the games, there's too many differences on how referees are actually reffing games. So then what happens is that where a referee is living, then you're adding to it. It's something that we don't need at the minute. So as I said, guys that are going to go up Sunday, they don't know what way the referee is going to ref it. So in the semi-final, there should be an advantage for Jake Morris's goal. There wasn't an advantage. So now people are going to say, oh, he's living in Kilkenny. Kilkenny are in the final. So they're going to start putting 2s and 2s together. So you need more consistency of how refs are reffing games, but it's more help from the linesman. If it's the video analysis, like what they do in the rugby, it is more help because the game is moving that bit quicker now. But as I said, it won't work with 2 referees in one field. It'll be actually reffed in 2 different ways because the variations are so different from game to game.
Yeah. Well, let's get some predictions. Derek, obviously we know that you're rooting for Tipperary, but who do you think is going to do it?
I actually think Tipperary will win. The reason I think there are a couple of things. I think Bubbles was taken off the last day, having played quite well, but I still saw a little bit of a shake of the head as he was coming off. John McGrath was sent off. I think the motivation will be high amongst those players. I think the advantage in terms of overall motivation is with Tipperary in terms of the questioning of Tipperary, you know, from a kind of a motivational point of view or from a kind of a character point of view that might be there as a kind of a good stick for Liam to beat them with. I think it's going to be very tight. I think, you know, you're just so slow to kind of write the kind of epitaph of Kilkenny because they've just defied, not logic, but they defied the odds, if you like. I thought Cork would beat Kilkenny. I thought Limerick would beat Kilkenny. And Kilkenny are in the final now, and I won't say they're dangerous because they're there on absolute merit. And well, as I said already, the quality of their players is huge. But I think Tipperary will win. I think they'll find a way. I think Kilkenny will sit back their half back line and not follow, you know. And I think the 2016 experience where Joey Holden was left 1-on-1 with Fennelly Callanan. I think Fennelly got 8 or 9 points. Did he get 8 points from play?
Yeah.
I can't see that materialise in terms of the space that Kilkenny will afford Tipperary. So I think Tipperary will have to win it from outside and almost find a way, like they did in 2010, with goals coming from Gerard Brown coming on as a sub, coming from fellas from deep, coming in the way rather than coming out the way. And I think John McGrath and Bubbles hold the key.
Lar, who do you think's going to win?
Tipperary. Yeah, no, I think Tipperary are going to win, but I think it's going to come down to the matchups. I know we've always said about the intensity. Guys know coming up Sunday that they need to tick all these other boxes. Yeah. If it is the intensity, the mindset, the Croke Park, you can't come with any excuses. So you're just taking that as a given that they're all ticked. Then you're coming down then just to the two managers then how they're going to set up. So to get their matchups right. So they need to get their matchups right. Then I think what is actually going to, I agree with Derek that this thing is going to come down to high intensity and it's going to come into a dogfight. There's not going to be much in it, but I think it's going to come down to a small bit of a brilliance, either if it's a Shane Callanan goal, a TJ Reid or Colin Fennelly. I'm just throwing out three names there that I think are going to shape this game. It's going to come down to, it could be a slip, it could be a turn, it could be just something, and then there's a bit of brilliance. Split second, lacking concentration. I think we'll be here next week, we'll be talking about the review saying this was a moment that changed the game. And that's what I'm going to base it on. But I'm going to base it on that it's a Tipperary bit of brilliance.
Yeah. Lovely stuff, lads. Thanks very much, Derek. All the best. I know you're rooting for Tipperary, so we'll wish you the best of luck.
I'm looking forward to Kilkenny Miners. The captain of Kilkenny Miners inside our school, so I wish them well.
Let's just make it clear, Derek is not rooting for Tipperary. I feel bad now. But thanks very much. We'll see you next week, and don't forget to join the conversation. #WeAreHurling. Thanks very much to our sponsor, Centra. We'll see you then.